We'll call the regular city council meeting to order for August 15th, 2022. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Hoyt.
Here.
Councilmember Burnjum.
Here.
Councilmember Lean.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Councilmember Porter.
Here.
All right, any changes to the agenda? Nick or Katie?
None.
Here, Steve? Joel? Julie?
I have an item I'd like to add to the consent agenda,
Yes, ma'am?
and it is the staffing changes and recommendations.
For the online version, would that be the 7G that's in there right now? Okay,
Yes,
all right.
correct.
7G. All right. Any other changes, Kelly, Chris, Chiefs? No? I would like to pull item 12A, which was the approval of the agreement for the design group for facility master planning for the Rambling River Center for future discussion. So citing so I look for a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of 7G and the removal of 12A.
Motion.
Motion by Katie, second by Katie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we will move on to citizen comments. There's no one in attendance, so move on. Oh,
Oh, I don't have comments.
okay.
I'm happy to, actually, favor Farmington, if you are checking out your bingo card, I want as many bingos as possible submitted to me. You could win a $50 gift card.
I like it. I like it.
Kelly, how do they get a bingo card?
How do they get a bingo card? There is about 100 copies in our lobby, so you could stop by City Hall. I went through most of those businesses to give them paper copies. Otherwise, there's a link on our website for a digital card, so you could also submit it to me digitally or print it out at home.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Look for a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition of 7G.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Katie, second by Steve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. 8A, public hearing, the adoption of an amended business subsidy policy.
I was just so excited. I came up here.
And we are not going to
What can I
extinguish that
say?
flame.
All right, so before us, we have a public hearing to amend our business subsidy policy. So our business subsidy policy will help with the city council's established business growth as its priority. A business subsidy policy will help provide more amenities to residents and increase and diversify our tax base. Farmington's business subsidy policy was last amended in 2015, and staff believes that based on changes in our community and the current economic environment, our policy should be updated to better attract businesses and retain a diverse business economy. State statute defines what a business subsidy or a subsidy is, and that is a state or local government agency approving grants, contribution of personal property, real property, or infrastructure, the principal amount of a loan at rates below those commercially available to the recipient, any reduction or deferral of any tax or any fee, any guarantee of any payment under any loan, lease, or other obligation, and any preferred use of a government facility given to a business. State statute outlines the Business Subsidy Act. It outlines the requirements and limitations for granting a business subsidy. In order for us as a local government to award a subsidy, we must adopt a business subsidy policy which follows statute prior to generating and awarding a subsidy. Our policy will be used when reviewing an application submitted to us for a subsidy in addition to all other of our city policies. We as a city have the right to deviate from our business subsidy policy. State statute outlines minimum requirements for business subsidy policy, which is that the criteria may not be adopted on a case-by-case basis. The criteria must set specific minimum requirements that recipients must meet in order to be eligible to receive a business subsidy. The criteria must include a specific wage floor for wages to be paid and jobs created. The wage floor may be stated as a specific dollar value or may be stated as a formula that will generate a specific dollar amount. So an example would be 10 jobs at 200% of the state's minimum wage. And then a copy of the criteria must be submitted to DEED. So our amended business subsidy policy will combine 3 separate policies we currently use as a city, and it will create one comprehensive policy document. So it's going to combine our current business subsidy policy, which was last amended in 2015, our current tax increment financing policy, which was last amended in 2016, and then current tax abatement policy, which was amended in 2016. For the proposed amended business subsidy policy, our policy establishes criteria for granting business subsidies which may become available through the city or through Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, which is DEED. Our policy will be used in addition to the act, which is state statute. Any applicant which is not in good standing with the city regarding licenses, fees, code violations, or other city issues will not be considered for a business subsidy. Applicants meeting the policy criteria, it does not guarantee the award of a subsidy, and approval or denial of a project is not intended to set a precedent for another project. So our proposed amended business subsidy policy will encompass loans, grants, tax abatement, TIF and other tax reduction or deferral, a guarantee of payment, contribution of property or infrastructure, preferred use of a government facility, land contribution, or a different specified subsidy. There is 5 criteria that we'll be using to evaluate a request for a business subsidy when we receive an application. The first will be public purpose. A subsidy must meet a public purpose, which may include, but is not limited to, increasing our tax base, anchoring a needed commercial center, enhancing the viability of other businesses in the city, or helping assist in orderly growth of the city and help with significant economic spinoff. Job retention may only be used as a public purpose in cases where job loss is specific and can be demonstrated. The second is increased tax base. The Act provides that an increase in the tax base cannot be the sole basis for generating a subsidy. However, the city can consider an increase in the tax base as a critical factor in granting a subsidy. The third is wage and job creation. The amended policy outlines that the project receiving a subsidy must create a minimum of 10 full-time equivalent jobs, paying at least 200% of the state minimum wage in effect at the time of the subsidy being granted. If determined that the creation or retention of jobs is not a goal of the project, the job creation goal may be set to 0. The maximum assistance provided per job created or maintained will be $25,000 a job. So for example, a maximum subsidy for a project creating 10 jobs will be $250,000, 20 jobs will be $500,000, and 40 jobs will be $1 million. Minnesota minimum wage rate is $10.33 an hour for large employers, which is an annual gross revenue of more than $500,000, and $8.42 an hour for smaller employers, which is an annual gross revenue less than $500,000. For a large employer at $10.33 an hour, that means you would be making $21,486.40 a year at state minimum wage. And for a small employer at $8.42 an hour, you would be making $17,513.60 per year at state minimum wage. 200% of state minimum wage requires that the project receiving a subsidy must pay at a minimum the following wages. For a large employer would be $20.66 an hour, which would be $42,972.80 a year. And for small employers, $16.84 an hour, which equals $35,027.20 a year. So this is relevant to point out these numbers because for our small employers, at a 200% requirement of the state minimum wage of that equals $35,027.20. If you look at Farmington, Minnesota as a city through the census, our data for average per capita income is $37,222. So that aligns there. And for large employers at 200% requirement of state minimum wage of would equal $42,900 a year. That equals our regional average per capita income at the county level of $42,588. The fourth criteria would be the but-for test, and that means when there is a substantial likelihood that a project would not go forward or would not go forward in the same capacity but for the business subsidy. So an example would be without the subsidy, a 100,000 square foot manufacturing facility would not be able to open and operate in Farmington at all. Or that same 100 square foot manufacturing facility would only be able to build a 50,000 square foot building, which would employ fewer people. The last criteria is other economic and redevelopment goals. So if job creation, and by extension their wages, is not determined to be a goal of a project receiving a business subsidy, a specific measurable and tangible goal related to one or more of the following must be achieved, which is the encouragement of additional unsubsidized private development in the area, which is also called spin-off development, the removal of blight and/or commercial and industrial development that results in higher quality development and private investment. If the subsidy supports a project that improves the quality of life by providing a desirable good or service and addressing unmet demand in the city. If it promotes revitalization and redevelopment in the city, especially in our downtown and the Highway 3 corridor. And a focus on the creation of wealth through high-value investment rather than on the number of jobs created. High-value investment creates jobs for highly skilled workers and often includes expensive equipment that is difficult and costly to move, as well as often requiring customized buildings. The city may deviate from the criteria in their business subsidy policy if the reason for that deviation is documented in writing and reported to DEED. In our current policy for business subsidy, it focuses on the creation of new jobs and the increase in total payroll. However, for those new jobs created, it outlines that it must pay an average wage equal to minimum wage level for business assistant programs administered by DEED at the time of application, with preference given to higher paying jobs that also provide benefits such as healthcare coverage. Our TIF and tax abatement policies require that the maximum assistance provided per job created or maintained will be $25,000 a job. So in our proposed update, what we're doing is we're incorporating TIF and tax abatement policies into the amended business subsidy policy. We're outlining that projects must create a minimum of 10 full-time equivalent jobs paying at least 200% of state minimum wage rather than outlining it through DEED. However, if job creation is not the goal of the project, the job creation goal can be set to 0. There is assistance that's not considered a business subsidy, and those include, but are not limited to, a business subsidy, loan, or loan guarantee less than $150,000, assistance for housing, assistance for a collaboration between a higher education institution and a business, or assistance that is generally available to all businesses or to a general class of similar businesses, such as a line of business, size, location, or general criteria. State statute outlines a long list of financial assistance not considered a business subsidy, and all of those are outlined in our final policy. So once we adopt an amended business subsidy, the process for granting one will look like this. The applicants will fill out an application and pay the fee for applying as outlined in the city's fee schedule. For 2022, that application fee would be $6,000. The fee covers the cost of the city's outside financial analysis and legal counsel. A public hearing will be set to review and act on that application for business subsidy. City staff will then provide a recommendation regarding approval or denial of the application based on applicable credit analysis, financial structure of the proposed project, and legal compliance of the project. Citizen comments on the issuance of the business subsidy will occur during that public hearing. The city will then either approve or deny the subsidy. If approved, the city will enter into a business subsidy agreement. For the agreement, it will outline several requirements that for the recipient, including but not limited to a description of the financial obligation of the recipient if the goals are not met, a statement of why the subsidy is needed, and a commitment to continue operations where the subsidy is used for at least 5 years after the benefit date. For the requested action of this public hearing, city staff has reviewed the proposed amended business subsidy policy with our Economic Development Authority in February, May, and August 2022. We believe as staff that based on the changes in our community and the economic environment, that the amended policy should help better attract businesses into our community and help retain a more diverse business economy. So right now, comments from the public and city council shall be received prior to a motion to adopt or reject the amended business subsidy policy.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Steve?
No, but I do think we need to open it up because it's a public hearing, correct?
We pose our questions before we open the public, yeah.
Okay. No, I guess, Kelly, I would just say thank you for the incredible work that you put into this. I mean, you know, to the average viewer, this might be kind of mundane, okay, business subsidy policy, but this is actually a really key tool or set of tools that we put in our development toolbox that helps us attract businesses to our community and, you know, hopefully retain them as well. So really appreciate all your hard work on this.
Questions? Thank you, Kelly.
Katie?
I don't have any questions either. Thank you for your work in updating this.
Nick?
I just have one minor question, I guess it's nothing big, but on that 3.3, the wage and job creation,
Yeah.
it says the max provided is 25,000 per job. Is there an overall max in that?
No, so,
I was just curious if.
okay, so a maximum subsidy, so if it only created 10 jobs, then your maximum is $250,000. We couldn't give more than that. Same for if it was 40 jobs, we couldn't give more than $1 million. We didn't have that type of bar before in our old previous policy, which is why people have gotten larger tax abatements in the past.
Okay. I understand you bringing it down. I was just, what happens if someone comes in and says they'll make 1,000 jobs? That's a large.
I mean, if they make 1,000 jobs, please give me a call.
I know, I understand.
We would assess it then. The city is able to deviate from our policy, so we could very well
Obviously, that'd be a
deviate,
very-
especially because we wouldn't have probably the funds for
I
that.
understand that, exactly. That was my point there, was.
Yeah, we could deviate from policy.
Something that big would require some attention, I assume, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But you're saying if someone came looking for a $10 million employee factored subsidy, that we have the ability to deviate for contributing factors, I'll say.
Yeah, so that would be 400 jobs, or 4,000 jobs?
4,000.
Either way, 4,000 jobs, yeah, we would have the ability to deviate. That would be a big decision that probably should be deeper than our policy right now that we're proposing.
Any other questions, Nick?
No, I was just what I was looking for right there, so, thank
No,
you.
great presentation. I don't have any questions. I like the consolidation of it, you know, just simplifying it. And again, it's another, as Steve mentioned, it's another tool in the toolbox to help attract businesses and provide more jobs, that, you know, more available jobs in Farmington than currently exist. So at this time, then we'll open the public hearing for the business subsidy policy amendment. If there's anyone in attendance looking to speak. Seeing none, we would look for a motion to close the public hearing and adopt the amended business subsidy policy.
Motion.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Katie. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Burncham?
Yes.
Councilmember Lean?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Porter?
Yes.
Mayor Hoyt?
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Now, for the singular guest in attendance. Are you here as part of another presentation, or?
Yes, he's here
Okay.
for the Dakota County presentation on the North Creek Greenway.
Perfect, all right. Just double checking to make sure that if somebody wanted to speak for citizen comments,
Yep,
that you have
and
the
then
opportunity.
John Mertens will be here as well. I think I seen him walking through the lobby. So another one will join us as well.
All right, it is officially the Kelly Show. We
It
move
is
on to
now the
10A
Kelly
and
Show.
the Flagstaff Meadows Park Master Plan. It is all you, ma'am.
All right, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight, we're here to present the final draft master plan for Flagstaff Meadows Park. City staff started working with WSB in mid-January on creating a master plan for Flagstaff Meadows. The park is located just south of the Farmington High School, north of Highway 50 to the west of Flagstaff Avenue. We did get approximately 3 acres of land from the 2 developers there. About 1.5 acres with the Regita development and about 1.5 acres with the Whispering Fields development as well. So right now it'll be about a 3-acre park. We do hope to increase the size of the park when we develop to the west and to the north. And we'll see that in a little bit. The purpose of the master plan: develop a plan for the Flagstaff Meadows Park improvements. Create a neighborhood park that is a destination park. We really want to look at all of our neighborhood parks now as a destination park, make them unique, add different elements so people are visiting our community. Right now we have 27 parks in Farmington. We want them to visit all the parks, see something new at parks and not do the same, you know, playground, shelter, and basketball pad. So hopefully we've done that with this plan. Offer unique program features and elements to create diversity in our park system. Connect and expand the trail network. A number of good trails were already in place, but the trail to the high school will be included now and also along Flagstaff Avenue. And then, like I mentioned earlier, identify future park location adjacent to Flagstaff Meadows Park. We did have a master planning open house. We invited the neighbors of Regina. We'd reached out to Whispering Fields as well. Obviously, they hadn't sold any houses at that point in time, but we kept them in the loop with what we were doing. We did have it on a Saturday here at City Hall. The weather was not exactly nice that day, so we held it inside. Approximately 30 people attended, including Councilmember Lean. For those who weren't able to make it, we did have a survey that they could fill out using that QR code. We had about 13 responses, I would say, from the survey, and Bob from WSB was actually really pleased with the turnout. I'm like, 30 people? And he's like, yeah, that's better than I usually get. So hopefully next time we can have it in the summer when we can actually be at the site instead of bringing people to us. I'd rather go to them. But like I said, hopefully with the next one. Lots of good feedback. So what WSB did is they took the feedback from the input session on January 22nd from the survey and also from staff comment and created a draft master plan. So these were some of the tools that were used at the open house. There was boards there. What would you like to see in the Flagstaff Meadows Park? It was fun to see the kids. They would grab a sticker and put it on, you know, I want a volleyball or I want an off-leash dog park. So very engaging for both kids and adults. Note cards. What amenities would you like to see in this park? If you were in charge of designing Flagstaff Meadows Park, what would you like to see? So different opportunities to provide input at the open house. There was catalogs there. People mark catalogs. I like this playground. I don't necessarily like this one. Just so we had a better idea of what people were hoping would end up in the park. So after the open house, the community input showed four main things. Walking trails and loops were very important. We don't have loops there right now. The neighbors definitely wanted more trails and loops. And we see walking trails as our #1 amenity on a lot of the surveys, so that didn't surprise me. A nature play area or a non-traditional playground. That showed up as a key feature identified. Picnic area and tree plantings. We heard over and over there, it's very, very windy at that park, so they wanted tree plantings along to block the wind. Based on that, WSB drafted the first draft plan. We sent this to the neighbors, and they also put it on their neighborhood Facebook page. When we sent this out, we learned that nature play area was no longer preferred. So if people didn't attend the meeting, they may have not heard that some of their neighbors wanted a nature play area, but it definitely came back that it was not the preferred type of playground equipment. Definitely showed a strong support for proposed trails, open space, and a play area, just not the nature play area. There was a request to move the dog waste station to the other side of the trail. It was kind of in the, it was in city property, but it was just off a neighbor's yard. So they just asked if that could be moved to the other side of the trail. People really liked the benches along the trail, and they loved the shade structure. And we weren't talking about a picnic shelter here, more of a shade structure. So based on this feedback, we brought it to the Park and Rec Commission in June for their feedback on this draft master plan. So taking the Park and Rec Commission's feedback and also the neighbors' feedback, most importantly, this is the draft master plan that we are presenting tonight. As you can see, the features were age-appropriate playgrounds. We moved away from the nature play area and just went with a more traditional playground structure. Park and Rec Commission did vote at their July meeting to approve this plan, but they also wanted us to look at a nature-themed playground. So not having a nature playground, but having a nature-themed one, which I think we can achieve. Shade structure, which would fit 6 tables underneath it. Open lawn and flexible field. So you can see there's 2 areas where there's open lawns and field space. Benches along the trails. The dog waste station, which you can see was moved to the other side of the trail. Shade trees on the perimeter of the park. we want to maintain that green space, open space, if we need it for a soccer practice or flying a kite or playing frisbee. So the shade trees were put on the perimeter of the green space. And then future trails to create those loops. Key considerations when WSB put this plan together was to provide those walking loops. We did hear that loud and clear that people wanted those walking loops. Utility easements. We do have some utility easements running through the park. So making sure the play equipment is north or south out of those easements as best as we can, to avoid having to take them out someday or rip them off if something should happen in that. That should be noted, that is a city easement. So at least we have control over that, but we'll definitely try to keep the footings out of those easements. Site views, maintaining site views. And then future expansion of the park to the north and the west when that land is developed to create a larger park. We did tell the neighbors that the pictures in the right are only concepts, so we won't be putting in the palm trees and the rubber surfacing. We did have one, when we sent this back out and invited the neighbors, both of Regita and Whispering Fields, because they had sold 4 houses by then, to the Park and Rec Commission in July. They would be reviewing it, approving it, and then bringing it to council for changes. I had one gal who emailed and said, love the new plan, thanks for hearing our feedback. And then we had one gentleman, he actually owns the house where the dog waste station was, and he just basically came to listen and find out when the park was going to be built and was very happy with the plan. So this plan will be paid for with park dedication fees, and park dedication fees per development. The developer either has to pay cash dedication or park dedication or cash in lieu. At both of these developments, we took some land, but we also needed to take some cash based on what they were required to develop. The other source of income to finish this plan is park development fees. So all developers do have to pay a park development fees, and those fees are required to be put towards that park. So if D.R. Horton has to pay, let's just say $100,000 in park development fees, I can't take that money from Flagstaff Meadows and put it into Prairie Pines Park. So between the two funding sources, hopefully bids will come in favorably. We plan to bid out the project this fall. We should be able to make most of the improvements in this park. So the action requested tonight is to approve the final master plan for Flagstaff Meadows Park. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Katie, any questions?
No, I asked, you talked about funding, so we went over that earlier. No, it looks great. This is very exciting.
Yeah.
Parks are some of the best parts of the PUD, so thank you.
Steve?
I just want to commend you, Kelly. This is really nice. And I like the fact that the park is going in as the neighborhood is kind of young. And yeah, just really, one thing that struck me during your presentation, which I think was kind of a theme when we were talking about Jim Bell, is trying to incorporate new elements and trying to really find out what are elements that we want that we're maybe trying to cram into one area. And maybe there's other parts of the community that we can incorporate those into. So I like that part of it. One kind of other thought is, and I almost want to say Councilmember Porter and her family may have adopted their neighborhood park. As we are developing new parks, it might be a prime time to solicit people in the neighborhood to say, we're also seeking a family or two that might be willing to adopt the park. And then they take even more ownership over it. And it kind of gives them some pride in their park and their neighborhood. So that could be a low-hanging fruit to kind of think about near kind of the tail end of the development of it.
Yep, great idea. I think they're a very, from what I hear, a very dedicated neighborhood and know each other and knew exactly where the dogs lived and the kids lived. And so, good idea.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Katie?
I mean, I'm all for the concept of give the people what they want. So I'm glad that there was lots of input on this.
Yep.
But I'll echo what Councilmember Wilson said too. I love the way that you opened this though, of like wanting to find more unique things to put in our park. And I don't mean to be critical of this one, but it seems pretty standard and straightforward in terms of a playground and everything. So if that's what the neighborhood wants, that's great. But I applaud your efforts of keeping that top of mind as we look at new developments for these parks, because it would be great if they weren't so cookie cutter and that we could add some different elements throughout the city. And then with that, making them destinations. My only other question or comment on here is it doesn't look like there's any sort of parking lot in this.
Correct. There will be no parking lot in there. Potentially there could be with development to the west or the north. I know some of the neighbors wanted a dog park there, but with no parking and limited on-street parking, there just wasn't a good fit for at this point in time.
Yeah, so maybe just something to keep in mind as that expands to the west.
Nick?
Do you want to go into a little bit more maybe about the feedback on the natural park, what they felt they didn't like about that, I guess?
Yeah, so if we go back, I don't know if you see the two pictures in the bottom right corner, those pictures probably didn't do us justice. I would say a lot of people didn't know what a nature playground was. I had directed them to Whitetail Woods, and I know one of the gals who called me went and took some pictures and put it on their Facebook page. I think they thought we were just going to throw a bunch of rocks out there and call it good. I did ask WSB if they had some better photos of a nature play area, and it's such a new concept, I didn't really have any. There was feedback, yeah, we love Whitetail Woods, it's a great park, but there just wasn't enough buy-in with the neighbors over there to go that route.
Okay.
We'll definitely keep trying that, though.
Well, I was just thinking about how we tie that, the Jim Bell conversation, right? How we went and said, it'd be nice if this was more natural, if you're going to get that kind of pushback for that kind of thing too.
Right, and that may be a better spot for, a nature play area.
I just don't want to go down the effort of saying, here's a Jim Bell where it's all natural and then having the same negative, feedback if it's, I don't know, yeah. Do you think that it was there was a very distinct group that showed up at that open house?
Yep.
It was, I think, one or two ladies that were kind of representing half their district.
Yep.
Do you think it was just a different sample size kind of when you went back with that first?
I went and cross-referenced, who didn't want it and who was there. It appeared like the people who were very vocal on the Facebook page probably weren't at the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to throw in one other comment based on what Councilmember Burnsham said. A dog park is asked for a lot. I remember when Nick and I were at the elementary school, all these kids were drawing elaborate dog parks. In fact, one kid had a dog and a snake park mixed together. I kind of suggested that may not be a good idea, but whatever. As you're looking through the parks and as we're kind of talking about that, have you potentially identified areas that could work within the existing park system? I mean, you don't have to name anything.
Sure.
But is that something that's kind of, I'm assuming it's something you're looking at?
For sure, it's definitely something we're looking at, but I think the biggest key is we need a parking lot. I mean, it's going to be busy, and the parking lot is going to be key to have a dog park. The other thing I'm hearing quite often, emails regularly, is pickleball courts. Those two are high on the list right now, but both we need parking lots. I think they'll be heavily used.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, like my peers said about, facilitating additional input and looking at the surveys and what HKGI had done and just finding ways to incorporate it back. When it is green and open space, it gives us the option of adding something at a later time, right? But in the meantime, it's still going to provide, some good recreation options for the young kiddos. We're still young, at least by census information, very young community. A couple of picnic tables, some outdoor grills always go a long way. People are looking for areas to congregate too. So the one question I had was relative to it's going to go back and reference our park tour just a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Any concerns about the delay on the equipment being ordered? If it goes for bid in the next couple of
Right.
months,
I
not
hope,
getting it
I
till
hope to get
next
a
summer?
RFP out for playground equipment out within the next couple of weeks.
Okay,
So I hope we can get it in early spring is the plan.
all right. Yeah, I have no other questions. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Look forward to the west side of that development starting to go now, you
Yep.
know? All right, with that, look for a motion to approve the final master plan for the Flagstaff Meadows Park.
Motion?
Motion by Katie,
Second?
second by Katie. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Lean,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Porter,
Yes.
Mayor Hoyt,
Yes.
Councilmember Burgem.
Yes.
All right. And Kelly, you get 12B. See, approved construction activity on Farmington-controlled property for the North Creek Regional Greenway Trail.
Okay, I'm gonna skip over this one. So as we have talked in previous meetings, Dakota County applied for a grant in 2019 to finish sections of the North Creek Greenway, both in Lakeville and Farmington. Recently, I received an email from county staff about needing to sign an agreement that we were authorizing the county to build or rebuild trail and a bridge on city property. So I reached out to Bryce and just said, hey, since we have to bring this to city council for approval, would you guys be available to come and give a short presentation on where we are in the process? So tonight with us, we have Bryce LeBron and John Mertens. Bryce is with the transportation group out of the county, and John is park planning. So I'm going to turn it over to Bryce right now.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Allie. All right.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. All right, yeah, so I'm just going to give a quick update. As Kelly introduced me, I'm Bryce LeBrun, Project Manager for Dakota County. Transportation Department manages the Greenway projects for the Parks Department. You know, we have the staff, kind of the expertise, and yeah, let's get going. So the North Creek Greenway, kind of as a whole, we'll just start zoomed out, kind of the future goal of the North Creek Greenway is to reach from downtown Farmington up through to the north end of Farmington, through Lakeville and Apple Valley, eventually to the Minnesota Zoo, connecting with other city parks, trails, schools, destinations, obviously, like I said, downtown Farmington along the way. Kind of the goal of the greenways overall is to be grade separated by themselves as much as possible. We try to take them through natural areas, kind of like the part of North Creek that we're talking about tonight. But also, yeah, try to keep the crossings as safe as possible, tunnels or bridges over major roadways wherever possible, and just try and, you know, elevate them above your normal city trail or sidewalk. So that's kind of the geographical orientation of, you know, where this greenway will run throughout Dakota County. This specific project is going to run from 173rd Street there on the north end in Lakeville down to 189th Street currently in Farmington here. And it's going to be kind of along the edge of existing developed areas. Some of it's just finishing up being developed, I believe. This is kind of a high-level look at the alignment overall. You can see where it crosses the municipal border there. And we do have 2 planned trail bridges along with this. When you look at North Creek itself, doesn't look all that wide. And that was kind of one of the initial things with this, is that we didn't think we would need that extensive of a bridge because it's, you know, pretty narrow. But it's so flat out here, and kind of the engineering background on it is that because it's so flat, anything that you put close to the creek really has widespread ramifications. So the bridges are going to be probably a lot longer than what you would expect, but it's going to be a pretty nice corridor overall. So this is a little tighter look, and it might be tough to see with all the insets there and everything, but in the city of Lakeville, there's no existing trails. That's all going to be brand new. And these are existing trails for the most part in Farmington that we're going to be using and rebuilding to brand new pavement, basically. There are some really, really tight curves in there. You can kind of see on the top left where it seems like they were trying to follow the water maybe when the trails were originally put in. I don't know if the developers built them years back or whatever, but we're going to kind of moderate those because we generally expect a higher volume of trail users, a lot more cyclists and things that, you know, can get through. So moderate those for safety, comfort, convenience, basically. And it also kind of helps us, move that trail away from homes. It's kind of, again, part of the Greenway vision is to, try to make it through a natural area and away from built-up things as much as possible. And that's also kind of a courtesy to the residents too. And then we also have a couple of nodes. It's kind of like a standard per length along in the Greenway planning. We'll have seating and benches and things. So one of them is kind of by those set of ponds with that peninsula out there. We'll have a larger one just to the top left of that legend there. And then there will be another one down towards the bridge, towards 189th Street. And then this is kind of a nice look at kind of what that bridge is going to look like. Not very tall, but we need that wide span to kind of get across that wetland and floodplain area so as to not impact that. We'll also begin sort of the implementation, at least trail side, of some of the North Creek Greenway Natural Resources Management Plan. And there will be more to come on that, in the future. But, we try to do our best to have native plantings and natural seeding. It's not going to be just turf grass. It'll be a little more of a process as we move even beyond this project. And then here's a little more detailed look at the couple of nodes. So that one on the left is that larger one, more to the north. So just a nice spot with some signage, waste bins, bike racks, little seat walls, plantings. And then that other one is just a smaller one with just a small bench and things like that. Yeah, so as far as tentative project schedule, right now we're at the 60% design stage. So we're kind of coming to the end. Most of the engineering decisions and things have been made. We're just putting kind of the finishing touches on it. Because of the presence of the creek so close, we have quite a bit of permitting going on. So there's some wetland permitting, Army Corps of Engineers, a few other things, and a tiny little bit of right of way. So that'll continue on through fall and hopefully winter of this year. We'll have final plans to kind of share. And then we'll look at, bidding early 2023 with construction spring, summer 2023. So this is pushed back a little bit for what we were originally expecting, but, we're still on track to get this built by 2023. And then I do have an open house that I just scheduled. It's going to be in Lakeville, East Lake Park, Monday, September 12th at 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So, we're kind of try to be outside. It's not directly on the trail alignment, but it was the best location that we could find that we could be outside with an accessible facility, with a little bit of cover. So that's kind of all I had. I don't know if you had questions for me. John's also here if you had any questions about kind of the Greenway program, as a whole. But yeah.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Both of you. Katie, any questions?
I live in this area and I walk this trail a lot. And so ever since we started talking about this a couple of years ago, I've been thrilled to know that it's on your radar and that there was a grant approved for it, because it's definitely going to extend the walkability of that area. And I'm very excited to see this get done. And the bridge concept is beautiful. So very excited. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of it too, is, we're trying to be careful that we're making those connections in a way that, still really good for the trail, but that still makes sense for, the neighborhood. So.
Nick? I got a couple. Is it a design choice to actually have the hand railings on the bridge? Because like Whitetail Woods is just flat open bridge, right? No rails. Is there a prescription for that? Not that it matters all that much. I'm just curious.
So I believe in this case, it's kind of both. So it's a safety and accessibility thing, but in this case, it's actually structural too.
Okay.
So it's such a low bridge, in order to go way up, you have to fill, and it adds costs and things. Sure. So that's actually, you look at those, and I believe those are 100-foot spans. So I think this is the one in Farmington, I think is the longer one. I can't remember right off the top of my head right now. But yeah, so it's mostly structural, and then, it just becomes the safety thing.
But then I guess help me with my geography, but there is a stretch of that Greenway that kind of goes pretty much right on someone's back, a few backyards through there, I think, right? Once you cross kind of over the bridge and it kind of kicks out over towards Jim Bell. I think not all of that's going to get moved away, basically, right? I mean, some of that's unavoidable, but you will stay kind of backyardish.
Yes, yeah, we do what we can where we can. However, yeah, it's that location. This is turn, so north is to the
Yeah,
right. So east-west, it's actually right on the municipal border. And the reason for that, the reasoning behind that is that that piece of property to the north with that large pond and wetland area, that's actually wetland conservation area. So it has a little higher rules on what we can and can't do. So to go on the other side of that, it's basically all wetland, and we can't get any closer to that property because we only have 25 feet to work with through there. That was put in as part of, put in place as part of development. So, like I said, yeah, we try wherever we can, but this is kind of the route that ended up coming along with the development. So,
and I guess the only comment, just please hurry. I'm excited for this too. And I don't even live by it, but I'll still use that thing probably every day.
good, good to
Any
hear.
questions?
No questions. It was very fun to see the visual up at the fair exhibit this last week. Kind of engage in the county's communication about that and see a lot of people looking at that and asking questions. So that was a great opportunity. I'm glad you guys took that to set up there. So, and thank you for your presentation tonight.
Yeah, great.
Steve?
Yeah, mine is really more comments as well. I mean, I would, of course now, I've only lived in Dakota County and Anoka County, so I guess my comment is biased, but I mean, you guys do a really, really good job of prioritizing parks and trails. I mean, I look at big rivers, I'm looking at the map here. I run and bike on that trail. That's a phenomenal connection and work that you guys did there. So, I mean, I just really appreciate the high quality work that you put out on behalf of the taxpayers. And as it relates to this trail, I just really appreciate the community collaboration and the fact that, you know, when you're doing something, you're looking to your community partners to work with and actually come out to meetings and tell us what you're up to and all that. I think, you know, it means a lot to me as a decision maker to know that we, you know, that you value us as a partner.
Good to hear. Yeah, appreciate hearing it back. So, yeah.
Just as a point of clarity, when I'm looking at the map here, this, what would be the lower left of the illustration is actually the southeast part of the map, and that would be the 189th Street, right?
Correct. Yep.
Just help us better understand how the bridge is going to tie in around 189th, knowing that that's a future through street with Jim Bell Park and Preserve.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a tight area. The crossing is going to end up kind of right at the bottom of that hill. So when you're at the top of 189th Street, I think the trail goes up right now. It's going to continue to do that. Yep. So we're going to keep that and basically just reestablish that. So right now it's kind of offset and there's no ramps or anything. Yeah, we're going to reestablish that, and we've worked pretty closely with Kelly and Matt here at the city to make sure that's set up in a way that we're going to want to leave it as. So I believe actually the planning for the Greenway is to kind of continue to the southeast. So right now this is our current connection. You know, we're you know, reestablishing it, rebuilding it, so it's got good slopes, looks nice. It's all brand new, kind of with the entire project. But the bridge is planned such that we'll be able to get that future trail alignment to the southeast and still keep that connection in.
So no interference with like the future Diamond Path. I mean, the county obviously has far better eyes on it right now, right? I mean, they're working from the north on it, but yeah, just, I guess not really a concern, just, you know, for clarification, knowing that that's an area that we are inevitably going to be building through, making sure that there's not rerouting and rework that needs to be done, so.
I understand, the bridge is before you get to the road that comes to that end of that neighborhood right
Yep.
there.
It's
so,
just north of it. Yep. So there's like a little tributary. I don't know if it's named or not. And then North Creek is actually a little further down, so it's crossing that tributary. It's one of the main, I think, drainage ways for that entire neighborhood to the west.
People make their makeshift, there's makeshift trails through it right now.
Yeah, that was something that the first time I came out here last fall, and then again this last spring, I had noticed that in the aerial. I thought there was something. I was like, oh, look at that. They made their own bridge. It's a lot cheaper than mine.
I think the snowmobilers go back there usually. Yeah.
But yeah, and that's to your point with that future development. That's something that John, you know, keeps a pretty close eye on. And he makes sure that he's in with those discussions to try to make sure that, you know, a corridor is dedicated for our future planning. So he's the mastermind on that kind of thing.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Kelly, anything else to add before?
One other thing is, there was quite a conversation on 189th Street, because right now we plow the snow to that end of that street. So we had Good conversation with Bryce and Casey from SRF and Matt DeCur on making sure that we could push that snow in a way that it wouldn't run off the trail and down. So we came up with what we think will be a good plan that will work for snow removal in the winter. The other, go ahead. Bryce.
I was gonna say, and to minimize rework, so we looked at a concept that was down below, so it would be flatter, not having to go up to the street and back down. However, you know, the more we thought about it, it would have worked, we ran into some drainage issues, and then if and when a developer comes to extend that street, basically those neighbors would have to go through it again. You know, we do the construction, it would get ripped out and then have to get replaced, whereas now there will be some disturbance, but it won't be for very long, and it should go back to the way it was, so.
Good deal. We appreciate it.
I will send you guys an email with the date of the open house. Feel free to come, stop by. I know you sent it to the county commissioners today, and it'll be going out to the neighbors on the trail.
Yep.
And
Mailing at some point.
so the mailing will go out to invite them to the open house. So I'll make sure that I send an email with the date and the time to you guys if you want to stop by.
Thank you, ma'am.
So the action requested tonight is to approve the construction of the North Creek Regional Greenway Trail on Farmington-Controlled property. And they need this for an environmental review process that they're going through. So the letter that was in the packet will be sent with their application.
All right, we'll look for a motion to approve the construction of the North Creek Regional Greenway Trail on Farmington-controlled property.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Katie, second by Steve. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Porter,
Yes.
Mayor Hoyt,
Yes.
Councilmember Burgum,
Yes.
Councilmember Lean.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sirs. All right, roundtable. Who wants to start? Katie.
Sure. I saw lots of posts about the county fair this past week. I was bummed I didn't get a chance to make it out there, but I saw so many social media comments on people who had never even been to this area of town before and came to the fair for the first time, and the hospitality that was shown to them. And so just a kudos to the whole community on that. So.
Thank you. Nick?
I got to go to the fair twice, so I guess I went for you. Yeah, nothing. I mean, it was exciting to see a lot of normal people, you know, or distant people still coming to the Farmington area. The 9/11 memorial was very cool. It was the first time I'd ever gotten to see it, and first time, you know, walking my older son who's starting to get it through it, and then having kind of an old person, you know, realization that like he has no idea what this is. And I still remember it like it was yesterday because I was much younger, but not that much younger, I guess. So nothing much else but that.
All right. Katie?
Well, for playing the game of who went most, Katie walked from her backyard every day with her kids. So we really enjoy fair season. If it was Friday or Saturday that people were talking about hospitality, it was obviously me on the courtesy cart driving them around. I gave a lovely family from Iowa a tour on the golf cart that they requested and said that it was the biggest county fair, which I was flabbergasted to think they were from Iowa and this was the biggest county fair they'd ever seen. But they did appreciate that. It was just really fun to meet people. So great to see the turnout. Almost too many people there on Saturday. I was having to watch out for kids starting in front of, and all the teenagers were asking for rides, and that's frowned upon, teenagers. Anyway, unless it's not busy. But anyway, sports, obviously fall sports are starting, gearing up, you know, more kids out on bikes getting to and from, and more activities going on for fall. So let's just be aware of that and get out and start supporting them for games and whatnot. And can't believe it's already fall football season for us. So that's all I got.
Steve?
I have no comments tonight.
Joel?
Just a reminder that your administrative performance evaluations are due in my office Friday. Just so you also know, I will be babysitting on Friday, so you actually have till Monday to get them in. But if they're not in by Monday, I will be calling you on Monday. So I already have one in. Councilmember Burgum is a little bit ahead of the curve, but if you could get them in, we'll get it ready for you. And we're scheduled to have that review first meeting in September.
Thank you, sir. Julie?
I will just highlight 4 positions that we have posted we're accepting applications for Community Development Director, Public Works Director, Police Officer, and Seasonal Arena Supervisors.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, a big thank you to city staff and all of our election judges. We had a very successful election this year, And we have 2 open city council seats. Application period closes tomorrow at 5 p.m. And then also our construction on Spruce Street will be officially starting on August 22nd. So that moved back a week. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Kelly?
We're still taking program registrations for Safety Camp, ages 5 to 9. It is on Wednesday, August 24th. We're going to have visits from the police and the fire and Dakota County Sheriff. It's at the Dodge Middle School warming house. So if you're looking for something for your 5 to 9-year-olds to do next week, visit us at farmingtonmn.gov and enroll them in Safety Camp.
Thank you, ma'am. Chris?
Still working on fine tuning the budget and the tax levy. Some of the information is now starting to trickle in from the county, and got some less than positive news from the state last week regarding LGA, but we're working through it and we'll get it down.
Thank you, sir. Chief?
I have nothing tonight, sir.
Nothing. Callie?
I'd love to talk about bingo again. You can also find the bingo card and information at farmingtonmn.gov/bingo. It's also in your Farmington Currents newsletter that should have hit your home on August 1st. And be sure you get out there and support our first favorite Farmington event, and we'll get the second one rolling out soon.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, it was a good week for the fair. Weather was significantly better than it has been in years past. Even though there's a little rain on Friday, it was not the sweltering heat of years past, so it was tolerable, and sounds like everybody had a good time, and there's some great events, the 911 memorial and stuff. I mean, 9/11, not 911. And you're right, last year or 2 years ago, they said that graduating seniors was the first class that was not alive when it happened. It just blinks that it's 21 years already. Good progress across the city with a multitude of projects. You have the roundabout, 66 and 3, that's coming along well. Can't get done soon enough, but target of early September. Saw the asphalt go down this afternoon at Feely Fields and Rambling River Park. That's great to see. All those softball players and flag football players and those attending events at the park, you're gonna see Feely got doubled in size nearly. So it's good to see that stuff start to, get to the home stretch. Spruce Street, just hope that weather cooperates with us. Just hope that it stays warm long enough that we can get that project done in time. But before we know it, school buses are going to be out. I know I said this at the last meeting, but kids are going to be back in school. All of our educators are back working hard here in another week or two. Still some construction, some detour, so please take a little bit extra time, drive slow. Just look both ways twice if you have to. Knock on wood, we haven't had a whole lot of problem, and I'd like to see that continue. As always, shop local, do what you can to support Farmington, and with that, we'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Motion by Katie.
Second.
Second by Steve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:57.